Few things are creepier than traveling down a dark and unfamiliar road on your own. With nothing lighting the way but a pair of headlights, it's easy to imagine what could be hiding just beyond their reach. Countless road trippers and long-distance drivers have experienced creepy occurrences while out on the road at night. Some of them took to Reddit to detail the moments that stuck with them the longest and bothered them the most. Story 1. One of the nights, due to us being behind schedule, my dad attempted to drive through the night to get us there sooner. He made it probably into the wee hours of the night before he deemed it unsafe and parked us in this little unlit rest stop in the middle of the woods in some flyover state. My brothers and I had fallen asleep in the car several hours before he'd stopped, so for at least a couple hours, we were all sleeping in the car in this dark, little parking lot surrounded by forest. Having got a couple hours of sleep and being in a pretty uncomfortable position, I woke up in the middle of the night pretty disoriented but not really scared. I looked around and saw everyone fast asleep in this pitch-black car, and naturally I felt pretty alone. I tried to fall back asleep, but it just wasn't working out, so I just sat there for a while, boredom setting in. Looking out the window to see where we were, it was pitch black, so I couldn't see jack SHT. Luckily, I wasn't the type to pack light and had brought a couple flashlights in my bag. Being careful not to disturb my sleeping family, I reached into the backseat, unzipped my bag, and pulled out a little plastic, yellow flashlight. It wasn't the brightest, but it was enough to see the foreground of the general surroundings. I put it up to the glass, making sure not to make any noise, and pushed the little switch into the on position. I pressed my face against the glass and looked out. At first, it looked like a normal tree line with some bushes, trees, whatever, but as I scanned the darkness, looking for animals, buildings, etc., I noticed this dark shape standing between these two trees in the distance. It looked like the shape of a man, but it wasn't moving. Just sitting there. Few things are creepier than traveling down a dark and unfamiliar road on your own. With nothing lighting the way but a pair of headlights, it's easy to imagine what could be hiding just beyond their reach. Story 2. Countless road trippers and long-distance drivers have experienced creepy occurrences while out on the road at night. Some of them took to Reddit to detail the moments that stuck with them the longest and bothered them the most. After watching it for a good while and seeing no real signs of movement, I just assumed it was a bush or some kind of natural occurrence. Just as I was about to turn the light off and reattempt sleep, I saw this shadow shape turn 90 degrees and move behind a tree, disappearing from sight. This scared the SHT out of me, and I immediately turned off the flashlight and threw my sweater-turned blanket over my head, shut my eyes tightly, and covered my ears. I was paralyzed with fear and, too full of adrenaline to get any sleep, sat in this semi-fetal position, clutching my flashlight, for the rest of the night. I waited until the sun came up and we were back on the road before I got any sleep. I didn't tell anybody about the man I saw in the woods. Story 3. This story is from my grandpa. He's a retired long-distance truck driver, and he often drove throughout the night and early hours of the morning over unfamiliar roads. This one particular day, when my grandpa was in his 30s, it was between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., and he was driving down a twisting country road that was so narrow only one vehicle could fit at a time. If two vehicles met from different directions, one would have to pull off the road to let the other pass. The road was empty save for my grandpa. On the right side of the road, there was thick woodland, and on the left, open fields and a lake. There were no streetlights. The only light came from my grandpa's truck and the moon. It was pretty lonely. My granddad was going steadily down the road and going a bit faster than he should have. When my grandpa said this, I always took it to mean he was blazing down the road as fast as the truck could go. He was listening to the radio and probably not paying much attention when he suddenly felt hands on his shoulders and a voice whisper his name in his ear, so close that he felt the breath on his skin. He recognized the voice. It belonged to his mother, who had passed away a few years previously. Naturally, this spooked my grandpa, and he instinctively hit the brakes. Seconds later, his headlights lit up a pile of 3 crashed cars that took up the entire road. My grandpa stopped just short of the wreckage. If he hadn't braked when he did, he would have plowed straight into the cars. The occupants in the crashed cars were all severely injured, and my grandpa was able to get emergency help. Had he joined the pillow, it probably would have meant a more dire outcome for all of them. There's a number of explanations for what my grandpa heard and felt, but my grandpa truly believes it was his mother giving him a warning. Story 4. Back in college, I was driving home one late night, a 2-hour drive. I noticed this truck with round-shaped headlights following me on the freeway. Just thought we happened to be going the same way. Each freeway change, it was still following me. 50 miles later, it was still following me, staying behind me at a constant speed and good distance. I got a bit agitated. 2 hours later, I finally reached my exit to my hometown, and it exited. I knew something was up. I instantly pulled into a 24-hour McDonald's drive-thru to see if it followed me still. It followed me into the parking lot, and, realizing I pulled in line to a drive-thru, it U-turned and drove off. When I left the McDonald's parking lot, I was paranoid that the truck was just waiting around the corner to re-follow me again. Luckily, it never reappeared. So I went home. To this day, I'm still not sure what its deal was. Thank you for watching. Which story did you like best? Give feedback in the comments. Subscribe to not miss new stories.